Coming out of the Combine, there's one headline that just won't leave the room. Reports that Trent Williams and the 49ers are stuck on a contract rework and that a release is on the table. Let's cut through the noise and get right to the facts you need. Trent is still one of the most accomplished tackles of his generation, a future Hall of Famer in talent and resume, but he's at a point where age and cap math collide. The number that keeps coming up is his cap hit, which is crippling the flexibility San Francisco needs in free agency. The way people are talking about it, if the team and Trent can't find common ground on a restructure, the Niners could make the difficult call to part ways, and that would immediately change the shape of the roster heading into the offseason. So what does that actually mean for you as a fan? First, this isn't a moral debate about legacy. It's a pure roster management problem. The front office has to balance respect for a franchise cornerstone with the real, immediate need to field a team that can contend next season. If Trent stays at his current numbers, the Niners' cap flexibility shrinks dramatically. If he restructures, the team keeps the skill and continuity that matters on an OL that already needs upgrades inside. If Trent is released, the 49ers would be forced to rebuild up to 3 spots on the line: left tackle, left guard, and center. And that's not trivial. That's not one free agent swing. That's a full reset that reshapes draft strategy and how Shanahan schematically plans to protect his QB and open lanes for the run game. Let me put it plain. The Niners' offensive line health and depth go from problem to front-burner crisis without Trent. And yet you also can't ignore how common sense cap management works. Veteran star players hitting late career dollars often face restructure conversations. The league has examples both ways: teams that bend for legacy and keep a veteran at cost, and teams that flip the roster to preserve balance. The immediate question for the Niners is, do you ride history and hope for another elite season from an aging asset? Or do you clear space now to bring in younger, cheaper starters who can be long-term pieces? That's the choice being debated in locker rooms and front offices across the league. Now, let's parse what we heard from John Lynch at the Combine, because his words are the clearest thing management has offered. He said he's had productive, substantive meetings with Trent and with his agent. He praised Trent's legacy and said everyone wants to thread the needle. Translation: the team is signaling public optimism while privately acknowledging the challenge. That's classic GM language. When you hear productive meetings, it means both sides have talked numbers and principles. When you hear praise for the player's legacy and "we want him in the rafters," it's both an olive branch and a negotiation tool. Respect on the surface, pressure underneath to reach a solution that works for the roster. The public posture is designed to keep the locker room calm and the fan base hopeful, but it also protects the team's leverage in a negotiation that could end one of 2 ways: a restructured deal or a separation. Here's the immediate ripple effect you should be watching for. If Trent reworks his deal, the Niners probably remain status quo with an incremental plan to address the interior. Maybe a guard or center in free agency and a tackle in the draft. Later, if he's released, the front office has to act fast, sign a veteran stopgap, or accelerate draft capital toward protecting the blind side. And because the Niners have already identified internal needs at center and left guard, losing Trent creates a domino effect, where one loss forces multiple new additions. For those of you worried about chemistry and leadership, remember this: veteran presence matters. Trent's not just blocking, he's mentoring, stabilizing the unit, and setting a standard in the room. Losing that is more than an X and O issue. It's a culture shift. Quick check-in for you. Vote in the poll I'll put up right now. If the team can't get Trent to take a hometown legacy restructure, should the Niners release him to preserve cap flexibility? Yes or no? Then drop a comment. If you could craft one contract clause to keep him in red and gold, what would it be? I'll read the best ideas in the next upload. Mid-roll, quick, high-energy CTA, under 45 seconds. If you're digging this breakdown, hit subscribe and ring that bell. Help us hit 2,000 subscribers so we can keep pumping out daily Niners coverage. If you want to seriously help the channel grow, use Super Thanks or Hype to fuel our quest for the next Super Bowl trophy and to upgrade our production. That support doesn't feel like a donation. It's fueling our community and making every video better for the faithful. Thanks for being here. Back to the story. Beyond the roster math and the emotional debate, there's the market consideration. If Trent hits free agency, he becomes one of the most coveted veteran left tackles available. Teams chasing a top tackle would weigh his age and recent tape against his experience and pedigree. Some franchises will gamble on his upside for a season. Others will avoid the long-term risk. For the Niners, the decision will also be influenced by what they can realistically get back in draft capital or cap maneuvers. Bottom line, this is an inflection point. It's not just a contract headline. It could define the Niners' offensive identity for a full season. In the next chapter, I'll walk through John Lynch's interview line by line, decode what he's signaling to the league, and what the realistic outcomes look like: restructure, franchise tag, release, or retirement, and what each would mean for play calling and personnel. Now let's slow this down and really read between the lines of what John Lynch said, because when a general manager speaks at the Combine, every word is calculated. He confirmed that he's had productive and substantive meetings with Trent and his agent. That's important. When negotiations are truly broken, you don't hear language like that. You hear distance. You hear vagueness. Instead, Lynch emphasized communication and alignment. That tells me this isn't personal, and it isn't hostile. It's structural. It's about threading the needle between honoring a legendary player and building a financially flexible roster. He also made a point to say that Trent loves being a Niner, and that the organization loves having him. That wasn't accidental. That's messaging to three groups: Trent's camp, the locker room, and you. The front office knows how much Trent means to this team's identity. He's not just a left tackle. He's tone-setting physicality. He's swagger. He's stability. When Lynch says he hopes Trent's name ends up in the rafters with the greats, that's both genuine respect and negotiation framing. It signals, we want you here long-term, but we need this to make sense. Now, here's the key phrase that stood out. There are some unique circumstances. That's GM code for age and cap number. You don't mention 38 years old casually. You don't bring that up unless it's part of the equation. And it is. A $39 million cap hit for a player approaching 38 forces tough math. It doesn't mean he can't play. It means roster construction has to consider decline curves, injury probability, and opportunity cost, because every dollar tied to one veteran is a dollar not used to fix center, guard, edge depth, or secondary help. And remember what Lynch emphasized elsewhere in the press conference: tape matters most. Intangibles matter. Mental toughness matters. But tape is king. That philosophy applies here too. If the tape still says Trent is elite enough to justify a restructure and push money into future years, then that's viable. If the tape shows even slight erosion that could accelerate, the front office has to be disciplined. Great organizations don't pay for past performance. They pay for projected impact. There's also something else to consider: leverage. Right now, both sides are negotiating through controlled optimism. Lynch publicly says things feel positive. That protects team leverage. If he sounded desperate, the agent wins. If he sounded dismissive, the relationship fractures. Instead, he positioned it as collaborative. That's strategic. It keeps the door open without committing to a number. Let me ask you directly. Do you trust Lynch's optimism here? One-word answer in the comments: trust or doubt. I want to see where the faithful stand on this. Now, let's talk possible outcomes realistically. Option 1. Restructure. This is the cleanest path. Lower the cap hit. Convert money into bonuses. Maybe add incentives tied to games played. That protects the team while honoring Trent's status. This is the scenario Lynch's tone suggests is most likely. Option 2. Short-term. Extension that lowers this year's hit, but avoids long-term liability. That's trickier at his age, but not impossible. Option 3. Release. This is the nuclear option. It creates immediate cap relief, but opens a crater at left tackle. If that happens, it means negotiations didn't just stall, they collapsed. Option 4. Retirement. This hasn't been heavily discussed publicly, but at 38, it's always a possibility. If that's even remotely on the table, it changes the dynamic entirely. The other clue we got from Lynch's broader comments is this: the 49ers still believe the draft is their lifeblood. He emphasized hitting on draft picks every year. That's not random. If you're potentially preparing to move on from a high-priced veteran, you better be confident in your ability to draft his successor. And this year, they don't have 11 picks. So if left tackle becomes a priority, that reshapes everything. Also, pay attention to how Lynch talked about culture and leadership. He values players who elevate everyone around them. That absolutely applies to Trent. Losing him isn't just losing a blocker, it's losing a locker room amplifier. That matters in a division that's getting tougher. Here's another quick vote for you. Do you think Trent Williams will play somewhere other than San Francisco next season? Type 1 for yes, 2 for no. Keep it simple. What I'm watching closely is timing. Lynch noted that nothing will likely happen until the new league year starts. That's a major detail. It means we're in a waiting window. Negotiations are ongoing, but final decisions align with league deadlines. So if you see silence, that doesn't mean collapse. It means leverage management. Bottom line from the press conference: this situation is alive, active, and negotiable. It is not resolved. Lynch projected confidence, not certainty. That's a difference. And in front office language, nuance matters. Now here's where it gets real. If this doesn't get resolved, what is Plan B? Who protects the blind side? Do you slide someone internally? Do you go veteran free agent? Do you burn a premium draft pick? And how does Shanahan adjust if his cornerstone tackle is gone? All right, let's build the roadmap. If Trent Williams is not the starting left tackle next season, this front office doesn't just replace a player, it replaces a pillar. So what is the smartest Plan B? First, internal options. You always start there because it's the cheapest and fastest evaluation. Could Colton McKivitz slide? Technically, yes. But that creates another hole on the right side. And when you're already talking about needing improvement at center and left guard, shifting pieces around becomes a game of roster whack-a-mole. One move creates two problems. Shanahan's offense depends heavily on timing, wide zone discipline, and quarterback comfort off play action. If the blind side becomes unstable, everything shrinks. Deeper drops, longer developing routes, even how aggressive you can be on early downs. Second option, veteran free agency. This is where cap flexibility matters most. If releasing Trent creates financial breathing room, you could pursue a mid-tier veteran who offers stability without elite price. Not a Hall of Fame resume, just reliable pass protection and availability. The risk? You rarely find premium left tackles just sitting in free agency. The best ones are extended before they ever hit the market. So, if this route is chosen, it likely means bridging the position for a year while developing a draft pick behind him. Third option, the draft. And this is where it gets fascinating. If Trent leaves, left tackle immediately becomes a top-tier priority. That could mean using your highest available pick on a tackle with elite footwork and length who fits the outside zone scheme. But here's the challenge. Rookie tackles, even talented ones, struggle early. The NFL's speed is different. The edge rushers are relentless. So drafting a blindside protector means accepting some growing pains in a season where the Super Bowl window is still open. And here's the real strategic dilemma. Do you prioritize immediate stability or long-term succession? Because those are two different philosophies. Immediate stability means paying a veteran and hoping the rest of the line improves. Long-term succession means drafting and developing, even if it costs you short-term consistency. Let me ask you something important. If you had to choose, would you rather draft a tackle in round 1 and live with rookie mistakes, or sign a steady veteran and use that premium pick elsewhere? Tell me which path you'd take and why. I genuinely want to see how you're thinking about this. Now, zoom out even further. Shanahan is one of the most adaptable play designers in football. If the tackle situation weakens, expect schematic adjustments. More quick game, more motion to slow down edge rushers, tight ends chipping more frequently, running backs staying in protection. But every adjustment has a trade-off. The more you protect the edge, the fewer players you release into routes. That impacts explosiveness. That impacts spacing. That impacts how defenses commit numbers to the box. There's also the psychological factor. The NFC West is not getting easier. Divisional games are trench battles. If the 49ers lose dominance up front, it changes how opponents game plan them. Defensive coordinators become more aggressive. Blitz packages expand. Containment pressures increase. You don't just lose a blocker, you potentially shift how teams attack you. But here's the encouraging part. This front office has shown it can draft impact players. Lynch emphasized that the draft is the lifeblood, and when they commit to a position, they usually invest heavily. If they identify their future left tackle in this class, they won't hesitate to pull the trigger. The key will be evaluation. Tape first. Mental toughness second. Scheme fit always. And don't overlook this possibility. The best outcome may still be the simplest one. A restructured Trent Williams deal that lowers the cap hit, keeps leadership intact, and allows the team to address guard and center with urgency. Sometimes the cleanest solution is the one right in front of you. Mutual compromise. Before we close this out, here's the final poll I want you thinking about. What should be the priority if negotiations stall? Re-sign Trent on a reworked deal, draft a tackle early, or sign a veteran free agent? Drop your choice in the comments. I'll feature the most strategic answers in the next episode. And if you've been riding with the channel through all this off-season chaos, make sure you're subscribed. We're pushing toward 2,000 subscribers, and every single one of you helps build this community of the faithful. If you want to take it a step further, use Super Thanks or Hype and help fuel the quest for the next Super Bowl trophy. That support upgrades the production, strengthens the analysis, and keeps this space thriving for real Niners fans who care about the details. Because, at the end of the day, this isn't just about one contract. It's about protecting a championship window. It's about balancing legacy with logic. And it's about making sure that when next season kicks off, the 49ers are built to compete at the highest level.